Greetings everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your host Captain Rye, and today's YouTube video is going to be a subscriber submitted replay. This replay comes from Kafa. Now you might notice that the in-game name is a little bit different than that one, but that's what he's asked to be called in the email in which he sent me the replay. Kafa here is in his Tier 5 Konigsberg, and the Tier 5 Konigsberg is a pretty decent little cruiser. It's not quite as good as the Nuremberg, but for Tier 5 cruisers, it is pretty darn good when handled well. Unless, of course, you're bottom tier, because you are a light cruiser after all, with only 6-inch guns. And Kafa has managed to find himself in just that situation, in a Tier 5 light cruiser in a Tier 7 maximum battle. As a compliment, it should be noted that it's not often that I see gameplay that truly impresses me. If you've seen any of my videos, you'll know that I play at an incredibly high level. So when I run into a replay, or just even out in random battles playing World of Warships, that impresses me. That's really saying something. And this battle managed to do just that. Because Kafa manages to do something I don't think I've ever seen anybody do. Especially not bottom tier cruiser anywhere in the game. So as the match gets started up here, Kafa's got a friendly cruiser just forward of him, and he's got a friendly ship back behind him, and they're headed towards where the A cap point would be. Enemy team has already popped up here. And so Kafa's taking shots out, and he's being pretty smart about it. He's got his high explosive loaded, and in this kind of situation, when you're the bottom tier cruiser, and you're talking about dealing with Tier 7 cruisers, generally speaking, your 6-inch armor piercing at these kinds of ranges isn't really going to do much damage. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen people in bottom tier cruisers trying to use their 6-inch guns with the armor piercing on targets like battleships at range. It doesn't really work all that well for you. But no, he's got his high explosive loaded, and he's going to continue taking shots out here. Now, you will notice that he's not getting all his shots out, and that's because of the gun configuration on the Konigsberg, and one of the reasons why I don't like it nearly as much as I liked the Nuremberg. He switches over to armor piercing. The Miyoko up there is giving him a nice broadside, but as you can see, his shot's not quite leading them enough, and they're landing a little bit high, so there's a lot of overpins there. However, even if he did manage to get him right on target, I don't necessarily think he's going to be able to citadel that ship at this kind of range. He starts backing off here just a little bit, trying to stay behind the island, and if you look at what the enemy team has got up there, probably a reasonable decision to make. Their team has already lost a destroyer, and the friendly cruiser that's up there with him has taken quite a beating himself. He takes shots in there, but he manages to only take a minimal amount of damage. Of course, those shots there all overpins, which was fortunate. The Konigsberg, like the Nuremberg, does have a fairly sizable citadel, but the citadel is located more towards the aft of the ship. Friendly cruiser that was up there managed to run himself aground, or nearly run himself aground, and that ultimately led to his death. His team has managed to balance out the scores by taking out one cruiser, but they are still down a destroyer as well as a cruiser, and the enemy team still has 2 of their destroyers. He's continuing to try and pump armor piercing into this Miyoko, and I kind of feel like if he'd switched over to high explosive, he'd have more consistent damage. But it doesn't matter. That ship gets taken out, and their team has managed to lose their other destroyer. The enemy team now has a destroyer advantage, and bear that in mind because that's actually going to come into a bit of a factor. The advantage in this case to the Nuremberg and other cruisers is the Konigsberg rear guns look like they have a 360-degree turn radius. He gets off torpedoes there, but that cruiser up there is well outside of his torpedo range and maneuvering hard. I really don't expect to see those torpedoes hit. Given that that enemy cruiser is going bow on, he switches back over to his high explosive, and that's a good thing to do. He's now got himself into a position at an angle where he can shoot all of his guns, so he can get out the maximum amount of firepower. His team is now mostly bottled up where the A cap point was be, and again, keep that in mind because that's gonna be an important factor in this battle, and kind of gonna be one of those surprising twists that helps lead to the outcome. Doesn't quite clear the island to get all of his shots off there, but he does manage to get his forward guns off. Shorted those shots just a little too much, and so they all fell to the aft. But that cruiser up there, that Nuremberg, he is not having a good time. And as you can see, he's focusing his effort on our hero here because, well, it's something that he can kill. And if your choices between, you know, shooting at something you know you can kill and shooting at something that's not necessarily going to be easy to kill, shoot at the thing you can kill easily. Fortunately, before he can get shots back off, he gets taken out by friendly ships. Now, you remember those destroyers that the enemy team has? Which they still have 2 of? Yeah. One of them is now sitting in the friendly cap. And it's about this point that the team needs to start assessing the situation. They're all still bottled up at their cap. Rafa is actually the farthest forward, but he's also in one of the fastest ships. So that kind of leaves him in a bit of a dilemma. Do you go back and try to reset your own cap, or do you hope that your team will do it for you? Considering it is random battle, I wouldn't put any level of trust onto your friendly teammates to be able to go and reset the cap. But there are friendly teammates that are heading back that direction. And with any luck, somebody will step on the cap long enough to delay it, and hopefully long enough to force the enemy destroyer out into the open. And they have lost one of their destroyers at this point. So the enemy team is actually down on ships, which, if it weren't for the fact that their base was being captured, would give Rafa's team the advantage. He's continuing to put high explosive into this cruiser, but again, he's just not quite leading that cruiser enough, and he's hitting the rear of the ship and getting a lot of over penetrations, which I suppose is a little bit better than getting the non-penetrations that some of his shots seems to be getting. However, that cruiser is close enough that his armor piercing should be able to penetrate and citadel him, assuming his shots don't fall horribly short. Come on, can he secure the kill? The cruiser's almost dead. He's still getting his shots out there. Almost. More ricochets, more overpins, but he does finally land a regular penetration round and does kill the enemy cruiser. And of course that cruiser pops his smokescreen right at the very end at the last possible second. Enemy ship closing in on our hero here. It's one of those situations that it's kind of like, well, you know, if I'm in a battleship, I don't really like letting cruisers with torpedoes get this close to me. He fires high explosive into the bow of this battleship and manages to set him on fire with regular penetrations right through there. But he does hit the battleship with a first set of torpedoes and a second set of torpedoes and secures his devastating strike as a result. And it's those torpedoes right there that are really setting him up for the top spot. Just look at the amount of damage he's done. Keep in mind, he's in a tier 5 cruiser. Problem is, the enemy team is still capping, and they've pretty much, thanks to his team limbing training up to the A cap area of this map, has pretty much managed to have a total uncontested access to the base. So they've got their work cut out for them. There's the destroyer who's been capping the base. So if Rafa can hit him and reset him, and he does do it, he knocks that base capture progress way back. But his work isn't done yet. He has to get up there, and somebody needs to step on the base to prevent the continued capture progress. Rafa is, again, still the only one who's far enough forward to actually do anything about it. As he's going to come around this corner, there are two angry battleships, and you know he's spotted, and you know they're going to have their guns pointed at him. And sure enough, he takes a big ol' hit there. He's going to fire off sets of torpedoes at two different targets, one set at one battleship and the other set at the other battleship. The question is now, can he get the set on his other side off, and is it going to be enough to make an impact? He takes a big beating down there, and he is set on fire, and that's enough to take him out of the game through secondaries from other ships. The question is, are his torpedoes going to hit their targets? Well, that set off of his port side does manage to nail that battleship, knocks him out of the game, and the set from the other side manages to hit the other battleship as well, securing him his high caliber to go with his flesh wound award. But the enemy team still holds on to the base. Not only are they holding on to the base, they're, well, still capping. And his team doesn't seem to be particularly interested in pushing up and stopping it, especially considering there's that enemy destroyer who's up there. However, they do finally manage to take out one of the battleships it was capping, which only leaves the destroyer and the last remaining battleship that's sitting in the cap. Rafa opted to leave his camera in free cam mode here, and the replay controls seem to not work since the last patch, so unfortunately I can't pan around the battlefield for you, but I can give you a synopsis of what's going on, considering the action is still going on here. The enemy destroyer has popped up next to the enemy battleship, and it's really just up to his team to not lose. One friendly battleship, who was a bit too slow to turn around, did continue to push forward into the enemy base, and is now in the process of capping their base. Again, the problem in this situation, that destroyer has got the majority of their cap progress, and there are two ships on the enemy team who are capping our hero's base, as opposed to one ship on their team capping the enemy base. But they do manage to reset that destroyer again, knock his progress back, and retard the base capture. If they can kill either him or the battleship, they might actually have a chance to win through capping. Although, even if both of those enemy ships remain in the base at this point, the friendly cap progress of the enemy base might actually just be enough to secure victory. The action leaves the screen here, but as you can see, there's friendly enemy ship way outside of the base who's making a concerted effort to try and get in the base. But his team manages to take out the battleship that was capping, and given that destroyer is detected, hopefully somebody can take him out of the game. Come on, don't let him get back into smoke. Take him out, reset, do all that you can do to deal with it. Though, looking at the situation, even if only that destroyer manages to stay hidden and not get spotted, not get taken out of the game, his cap progress has been retarded too much, and our hero, well, his team is going to win. The question is, are they going to be able to kill the damn destroyer? This is like the most frustrating thing in the world when you're dealing with one lone destroyer in a base who just won't die. Come on, somebody take him out. Get the kills before you cap out. Get that sweet, sweet justice. I will say that Rafa got lucky here with his camera sitting in this position, because it definitely still shows all of the important action. That destroyer is almost dead. Oh my gosh, he is so close to dead. And yes, they do manage to take him out, which results in the enemy team no longer capping. And the lone battleship that managed to get all the way into the enemy base is going to cap out for a victory. There it is, victory. Bottom tier, 141,000 damage done. High caliber in a tier 5 cruiser in a tier 7 maximum battle. That is just damn impressive. Not only is that impressive, but when you look at the team's lineup and where he fell with his base XP, Rafa is top of the team for XP earned at over 2,000 base XP. Again, in a bottom tier light cruiser in a tier 7 battle. And that battle should not have been a win for them in any respect, given that the enemy team managed to push into their base and hold it for so long. Anyway, that's it for today's video, folks. If you liked the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below. If you'd like to get some irregular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me and my channel, please do so by visiting my Patreon and consider making a monthly donation there. If you've got a replay that you'd like to submit to me, like this one, to be featured on my channel, you can do so by emailing to me, PMing me the link via YouTube, or messaging me on Facebook. And if you'd like to watch me play World of Warships and other games like Skyrim live, you can do so by following me on Twitch. As always, you can find the links for all of those in the description down below. And I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.